man. Why must I chase the cat?
Good evening and welcome to Posse Presents. I'll tell you, I always say it, that music gets me much happier than sometimes I walk in here, and tonight is no exception. It's a windy, kind of cold night here in Waterbury, and I'll tell you, if you've got breathing problems, the wind is not your friend. It's killing me today. But here we are, and we're off for more excitement. Just before we get started, I've met some new people this week, and I just want to give a little shout out to John and Camille, who have kept me quite entertained, and I appreciate that. So, hi. Anyway, all of us were probably impacted in some way by this storm this last week. And it was really no joke. I was kind of sick and tired of hearing it before it ever happened. I refused to go out and get caught up in the crowds and all that. I went out and did all my running around on Monday morning, made sure that I had all my supplies for me and for the animals, and that we were ready to hunker down and bear whatever came our way. And fortunately, very fortunately, I got off with just about 22 hours without power and no damage. But some of the pictures that you see of the devastation, it's devastation. Things just, I don't think that in our lifetime we've seen some of this stuff up in this area. You look at New York, you look at parts of New Jersey, parts of Long Island and Staten Island, and even my hometown of the city. Parts of Connecticut have just been, it's incredible. And there are people who are still without power and still without, their homes. It's absolutely incredible. And people are not the only victims. I mean, yeah, there are people who lost lives, who lost everything they owned, who lost their homes. But really, it has impacted the animals in such an incredible way. I mean, this show was like pretty much written by the storm, because there's so much that has happened as far as shelters being damaged. People who had a home one day didn't have a home another day, and their own animals were put at risk. If they were foster parents to an animal, maybe they can no longer foster that animal because they have no place to live and no roof over their heads or their own animals' heads, and they certainly, they can't continue to commit to their foster pet, which really impacts the whole rescue community. There are shelters that had to evacuate animals due to flooding, due to destruction. Shelters are all doubled up in a lot of places. Devastation in some of the buildings where they were housed. There were pictures that Tonya posted from New London where a tree, a ginormous tree, came crashing through animal control. It fell where there were dogs. Thankfully, the dogs weren't hurt. There was a gentleman sitting at his desk one minute, and the next minute there was a tree came through the roof. The pictures were just incredible. I believe Stamford had flooding. Some other private shelters had damage. Some other, municipal facilities had damage. So that puts everybody in a position of having to scramble to take, say, the dogs in New London and put them in another facility that, could have the open, that might have the open kennels and could spare the space, but now they can't take in animals. So where do any of these animals go? It's terrible. So I would say that if you have ever considered fostering, this would be the time. Fosters have always been the backbone of any rescue movement. Without foster homes, the shelters would remain crowded. Fosters can tell a wonderful story about an animal's disposition because they've lived with that animal. So really, foster homes, which were at a premium before, are like gold now. So even if it's not something, you know, you are necessarily prepared for, think about it and prepare yourself. Even if you take in, you know, a cat or a dog or anything, it's going to take the burden off of someplace else where they're really stacking them up in hallways and stuff just to make room. It's the pictures I see are just horrible. And you know, one story that I heard about, it's on Facebook, someone posted it on my wall. There was somebody who had a foster and was kind of like not happy because the dog stopped getting along with their own dog. So when they evacuated, they pretty much just left it in a crate in an abandoned house. You know, the picture of this dog, it's obviously been in a fight. It's not been cared for, and they just walked away from it and left it in an abandoned house. And, you know, stuff like that, fortunately, is not necessarily the norm. But now that dog desperately needs a place to go. And there was another dog that someone posted on my wall. I think the same person posted it. The dog, again, not very good with other animals. Before the people's house got flooded in the basement, they were able to keep her separated down in the basement so that she wasn't with their other animals. Everybody was happy. It was a finished basement. It wasn't like they were locking her in the basement, okay? But now they can't do that. So she desperately needs a place to go. You know, the shelters are just all filled up, like I said, and there's no place for these animals to go. It's an emergency everywhere. So really look around, reach out to your local shelters and see if they particularly need help, or if they, you know, have answered the call to help another shelter. Get involved, as I always say. You know, there's so much you can do. If you are willing to help and, you know, you really don't know of the shelters around you, by all means, you can contact me and I will try to steer you in the right direction. Go to Pound Posse Presents on Facebook, or you can email me at pawprints713@aol.com. That's pawprints713@aol.com. You know, the shelters have lost all their supplies. Dog food, cat food, kitty litter, cleaning supplies. You got to figure, if there was a flood, or, you know, a hole opened up in the ceiling, or, you know, something like that, water got in and you can't use wet dog food, you sure can't use wet kitty litter, or, you know, wet paper towels and all that. So that's another need that's out there, is to replenish these supplies. A lot of the shelters are going to need, you know, building materials, people to help rebuild. So there's plenty of stuff that you can do in the course of your everyday just to help these poor animals, once again, have a safe place to be, whether it's by volunteering time or resources or your home. You know, it's really, people are collecting food and water for people, but, you know, the animals are just as in need. And, you know, if you're going to take care of one, maybe you can take care of the other. You know, if you're at a loss as to how to go about helping in that respect, again, you can contact me. Or if you remember, this summer we had Lisa from Blankets and Bowls on the show, and that's what she does. She collects and distributes. So you can absolutely contact Lisa at info@blanketsandbowls.org, or find her on Facebook and get in on what she's trying to do. She was posting about, you know, making packages and doing what she could to help out. So, you know, that's definitely another avenue. But again, if you're at a loss as to how you can help, you can email me at pawprints713@aol.com. That's pawprints713@aol.com. Maybe someday I'll even get like I'll make my own Pound Posse kind of email, but I'm lazy and I hate to have to keep checking different emails. So we'll keep it like that. It's Paw Prints, you get it. It's all good. So anyway, in addition to all of these dogs and cats and animals that have been displaced for having to evacuate, there's a lot of lost ones. There's a lot of dogs that are showing up lost. There are a lot of dogs that are showing up found. And there's actually been set up a Facebook page where people can post pets that they've lost, pets that they've found. And that's posted on the Pound Posse Presents Facebook page, the link to that page. You know, keep your eyes open because, you know, as you go about your business, you may start seeing animals that you never saw before running around, and they could just be, for some reason, been separated from their families due to the storm. And, you know, I'm sure that their people are very worried. I'm sure that the poor dogs have been through God knows what, having been out in the street in that storm or in the aftermath. So make sure that if you are dealing with an animal that is lost, if you're looking for an animal, contact a very broad range of your municipal facilities where people might turn an animal in, because as I said, they're getting farmed out to other facilities. You know, the overflow and for the ones that were devastated, you know, your pet may not end up right in your local pound. So broaden your search and don't give up hope, because, you know, if you are persistent, you may just find the animal that you lost. And if you find an animal and you're persistent in that same fashion, you know, contact animal shelters outside of your area, because you don't know where the animal may have come from. You don't know where the owners might be looking. So broaden your outreach and who you notify in the event that you have lost or found a pet. And, you know, in many circles, you see these posts on Facebook where if you've lost a pet, you should put a sign on your front lawn saying that you are missing a pet, because a lot of times someone will pick one up and start driving around and trying to find where it belongs to, you know, who it belongs to, where it belongs. So that's one way that may help get your pet home. Anyway, I am going to go into this week's tirade about Bonnie and Clyde. So if Zach would love to put the pictures up as much as I would love to see them, that's a beautiful thing. Bonnie and Clyde are still urgent. Originally I was told that they had at least until Halloween. They are still with us, thankfully. You know, a lot of the devastation has caused the shelters to lighten up on their policies of deadlines. But Bonnie and Clyde, you know, there's an incredible incentive to a 501 rescue organization who will set them up in a foster home. You know, Branford posted today on, the Branford Animal Shelter posted on their wall their spin on Bonnie and Clyde, which pretty much confirms everything that we've already been talking about. You know, Bonnie, probably not the best with cats. She'll chase one if it runs away from her. So if you've got a bold cat, you're good. If you've got a cat that's going to run away from a dog, maybe not so good. Bonnie has been a bit dog selective. So if you are interested in, you know, giving them a try, you really probably want to, well, you'd always want to bring your dog down to meet a potential, you know, dog that you're taking in your home. But it's a must with Bonnie because she's very selective. You know, Clyde, she's fine with. I mean, that's her brother. They've been together for 8 years, and she really depends on him for her well-being. And separating them really only just served to further depress both of them, and that's pretty much the reason why they're facing an expiration date, so to speak, is because they're starting, well, particularly Bonnie, starting not to do very well. And, you know, like I've always said, some animals can take it in a shelter and some animals can't. Clyde is more lighthearted, I would say, and Bonnie is just a little bit more clingy and needy. So she's not doing as well. She's the one who's stressing out. She's the one who is, you know, starting not to do as well as she could, because really they just need to be on your couch enjoying the warmth of your fire, so to speak, and living out there happily ever after. You know, Clyde is neutered, Bonnie is spayed. They're up to date on vaccinations as far as I know. And they're just like a ready-made pair, you know, they're a family waiting to happen. So there you have Clyde with the wide white stretch on his nose, and you've got Bonnie with the more narrow stretch of white on her nose. And they're happy-go-lucky. They love each other. You know, they would probably be a lot of fun to have. You know, Bonnie is really calm on a walk. Clyde pulls a little bit because he gets excited. But, you know, if you have a fenced-in yard, it's a perfect situation. You're not going to have to worry about it. But really, you know, what's better than one is two. You know, double your fun and all that other stuff. That's, you know, I don't know. I have a house full of animals, so for me, it's like, what's one more? What's two more? I would take them, but I have a house full of animals. It's not going to work. Bonnie already ate a bird, and I have birds, so yeah, it's probably not like the coolest situation going for them. But if you're interested, the Branford Animal Shelter's number is 203-315-4125. That's 203-315-4125. And so, last look at Bonnie and Clyde, pleading to come home with you. You know, I don't know how much longer they're going to get. Again, the storm worked to a lot of animals' advantage, but I don't think that their luck is going to run forever. Just as you see this picture, the real Bonnie and Clyde didn't have a forever streak of luck either. We don't want our canine companions to go out in a blaze of glory. All right, so we can have the camera back to me, because that's more fun than anything at all, isn't it? Speaking of extensions and you know, understanding that the weather has prevented a lot of people from being able to step up and help animals, the City of Hartford Animal Shelter has had a number of urgents this week, and they have been pretty much granted the proverbial stay of execution from day to day, because there has been so much disruption in the flow of people without power, people who can't, you know, see the dogs, or, you know, if they were in a position to take one but they have no power, or, you know, their house is devastated, it's kind of not going to happen. So Hartford's been gracious in that, and there were, I think, 2, if not 3 urgent dogs for today. And I don't know if there was one adopted or not. I'm a little remiss on being up to date on things, but whoever wasn't adopted today got until Monday. And I think there's a couple for Monday too, so it kind of backs it all up and makes it even more urgent, because clearly the more dogs you have to get out on a given day, the more of a crunch you've got. You know, I know New Britain has been backed up, and some of the other pounds, New Haven, East Hartford, there's a lot of pounds out there that are still kind of running full. And like I said, with all of the madness that's going on in the storm's aftermath, it's not making it easy. I know that Bridgeport made an arrangement, from what I read, with a rescue group where, you know, dogs can be pulled and fostered there. So, you know, there's a lot going on, a lot of good things going on, and you can be a part of it. You just have to reach out, take a look around, see what you can do, and just do it, because I'm telling you, now more than ever, the animals need you. So if you're interested, back to Hartford, if you're interested in them, go to the City of Hartford Animal Shelter's Facebook page. They give wonderful descriptions. I tried to get a last-minute little poster together like they do every week, and I've been showing, and that was not available to me. Laurel Schmorrel. But anyway, we'll not pick on her. We just won't. Anyway, as far as events, there is an open house tomorrow at the Little Shop of Howlers from 1 until 4. I know I mentioned it last week. That is in Hamden. There's going to be games and vendors and demos, and from what I understand, a costume contest, and this is really cool, a grooming competition. Now, you know, you don't think of, you know, if you bring your pet to get groomed, you know, you just kind of think, all right, well, you know, it's just like their job and whatever, but there are groomers who like really go into competition, and I know they offered up some opportunity to some rescue dogs, and I think that's a really cool thing. They have a self-service dog wash, I think it is, which is really cool. And again, they were, from what I read on their Facebook page today, they were making it easier for pets that went through the hurricane to make use of that. So that was pretty cool. So if you want any information on that, if you have an animal that you want to be involved in tomorrow to be part of the grooming competition maybe, and you know, be like a poster child for what these amazing groomers can do, you would call 203-288-3330. That's 203-288-3330. Now next weekend there is an event, once again near and dear to my heart. My friend Debbie at Pet Playhouse puts together some really fun stuff. There is going to be, for those of you who like mini golf, an event that will benefit both Running for Rescues, who, as we know, I've had Jody on the show, and I talk about her from time to time because she is a wonderful supporter of the animals that are in need of help, and she has helped more than a few because I asked her to. And it will also benefit the Southington Animal Rescue. So on November 11th from noon until 5, there's mini golf, and that will be in Southington, and you can find out more on my Pound Posse Presents Facebook page, or you can call Debbie at 860-426-9640. That's 860-426-9640. Or you can email me if you need, you need to get me involved at pawprints713@AOL.com. That's pawprints713@AOL.com. And I will try to make that. I think that it'll be a lot of fun. I know that there's a lot of fun people going to be there. So even if you don't mini golf, I don't know. I can't even tell you the last time that I did that. Have you ever played mini golf?
I have, a long time ago. I love it.
Yeah, do you really? I mean, I remember as a kid growing up, I was in Stanford, and we would go to Rye Playland, which you should see the pictures, the devastation there. But anyway, they had like the little ticket packages where you would get like 10 rides and mini golf. And so that was my exposure to mini golf. I can't say that I was ever very good at it. I can't remember the last time I played it, but why not? I mean, really, if it's for a good cause, I'll go make an idiot of myself. I've done worse. I mean, hey, why not? So anyway, I'm kind of looking forward to next week's show. I've got Mark Sheehan and Laurel Cox scheduled to come on. And Laurel, this is your warning. I need some paperwork from you, my dear. I believe that we will have a dog here in the studio, and it will be a very, very nice time because, when you've got good people, you're going to have a good time. And that pretty much wraps up everything I've got to say, I think, for this week. And I know that I still have a few minutes, so I'll just, do my usual babbling. Please check into what you can do for your local animal shelters, the animals that do need you. Like I said, foster homes are, even if this is the only time you ever do it, pick a dog that really needs you, because there's plenty of them, or a cat, or what have you. It's not the end of the world. It really isn't. I mean, I have fostered, when I was with a shelter here in town, I had like my whole spare room, it was just like a cat and kittens and another kitten, and I had crates everywhere, and that's how I got my Molly, because some lady decided that the day of our bake sale she needed to turn in a cat, and the director was like, "We're full," and I'm like, "Put her under the table, I'll take her home." And of course, when I left the shelter, I kind of inherited Molly, because she was a very skittish cat and deemed unadoptable, and that's neither here nor there. But you know, I've taken in the occasional, you know, puppy or dog or cat when it's been necessary, and it is a rewarding feeling. It really is. You know, if you can manage it short term, you know, there's usually not any guarantee on how long a foster is going to be with you. That's something that people kind of miss the point on. But I think in the environment that's out there now, a lot of these dogs just need a home until their shelter is repaired, or, you know, something a little more guaranteeably short term. So, you know, get your feet wet, try it out, and help the animals, because really there's so much horrible stuff going on out there that you can be the difference, you know, to whatever the situation is for that animal. Like I say, I can't believe those people just like left a foster dog in a basement and just were like, or in an abandoned house, and were like, yeah, peace, that's it, we're done with the dog. You've got to commit. You've got to be willing to, you know, stay in it for the duration. And you know, it brings to mind even Penny. If you remember, Penny was here a few weeks ago. You know, that poor lady Kristen's had a little bit of a hard time with her because she's done some damage and all, but her apartment was devastated. So now she doesn't even have a place to live. So how is she going to even have Penny? So she's got her bouncing around. So any of these animals, you know, doesn't have to be the ones that I've mentioned, and I've mentioned a few. Any animal in any shelter surely needs you. If we're not friends on Facebook, friend me. It's not that hard to find me. Find me through Pound Posse Presents. I can help put you in touch with someone who may be able to use your services, and believe me, it's critical, it's crucial, it's dire. You'll be making a big difference, and that's all she wrote. I've got 30 seconds, so I'm going to say my goodnights. Like I said, I'm looking forward to next week. Mark and Laura will be on. I'm going to say peace, love, and dogs. Good night, everybody. Stay safe. Help those animals. Do what you can do.
What's up, man? You left some leaves burning out here.
Yeah, I just, there was I just came in just for a second.
Come on, man. If it's too